going on, everybody? For the New River Battalion, I'm Lieutenant Colonel Daniel Harrison.
And I'm Cadet Ryan Louie, the first official co-host for Torched Ones.
And welcome to Torched Ones, the show where we have answers to your burning questions and even hotter wings. Today, we're especially privileged to host the commander of 1st Brigade, United States Army Cadet Command, Spartan 6. Colonel Jason Wayne, call sign Spartan 6, is the commander of 1st Brigade. He's an infantryman by trade and has served in the 101st Airborne Division, Air Assault, the 82nd Airborne Division, America's Guard of Honor, the former 4th Brigade, 25th Infantry Division, now 2nd Brigade, 11th Airborne Division, United States Army Europe and Africa Command, the Joint Staff, and the 173rd Brigade Combat Team Sky Soldiers. He recently served at the NATO Defense College in Rome, which must have been a very rough assignment, sir. And then most recently as the Deputy Brigade Commander for the 173rd. Before coming here, Colonel Wayne left Vicenza, Italy, traveled to Fort Knox, Kentucky, and joined the brigade this summer. And so I remember a quote from your change of command speech that was, "Life is not about the milestones, it's about the moments." So I think you can also claim the title of natural philosopher. Sir, welcome to the show.
I'm really excited to be here. Thanks.
Sir, thanks for coming. What's your experience with spicy food?
So I like spicy food. I like to dabble, but I don't think I've ever dabbled in anything quite like this. So I'm cautiously optimistic.
Ryan has the most experience of anyone except for me doing this. What's your best advice to our commander on how to approach navigating the Capsaicin Mountain?
You can't focus on the heat. You have to just focus on the conversation at hand. You let that heat get to you, and you're just going to be sweating.
I've learned through blunt force trauma most of my career that you just got to go through it and commit, and so we're going to see how this goes.
Yes, sir. Well, you'll just to orient you to what's on the table, sir. Least dangerous to the right, most dangerous to the left. We're going to start with chili maple. Ryan, you get to choose which chunk you want to start with.
I'll take the bigger chunk.
All right. Bottoms up.
Going right to left, right?
Yes, sir.
All right.
Sir, you're in command of the most unique brigade within all of Cadet Command, housing all of the senior military colleges and junior colleges. What do you envision for the future of the Spartan Brigade?
I think that's a really great question. And so from my perspective, I see this brigade as really, really special. So while unique is a good word, the specialness of this brigade is we have these large corps of cadets that are anchored by Army ROTC programs that really sort of drive what's really great about Army ROTC. And we tend to have a gluttony of riches and resources at each of our programs. And so the thing that jumps out at me outside of the quality of our cadets and the quality of our cadre, the performance that everybody puts out day in, day out, and it's demonstrated at advanced camp, is that we have a unique opportunity in our programs to drive initiatives forward on behalf of Cadet Command and quite frankly, the Army. And so there's a few things that I've really been thinking long and hard about is how we become the focal point for initiatives that improve holistic health and fitness, initiatives that improve leader development and building cohesive teams, and then being sort of the center of gravity of integrating the total Army into everything that we do. And so bringing Guard, Reserve, integrating resources from ForceCom and TRADOC so that when we deliver a message and tell our Army story, it's one that you see everything that's great about the Army, and it encourages our cadets, it drives them to want to be great Army leaders, but also encourages access and interest in the outside communities and is representative of our nation. So that's my goal, is hit those big three things, become an anchor point, and then have each of our programs sort of take those on and lead that for our command.
That was one of the things I really appreciated when I got here last year, sir, was having come from a different commissioning source, having all three compos side by side, people from various state National Guard units, and then soldiers who are actively serving the Guard, bringing in and bringing their experience to other cadets. It makes something pretty special when we go out to the field.
100%. Couldn't agree with you more.
So, sir, I spent a lot of time with Sergeant Major Beard this summer, covered in sweat and face paint.
You were the most visible person on Facebook in all of Cadet Command, and no one actually knew who you were because you were always camoed up.
You got to stay tactical.
In fact,
sir.
The first time I saw you without face paint on, I didn't know who you were.
Well, sir, then thinking about Cadet Summer Training, right, the Super Bowl for Cadet Command, it's definitely what we see as our decisive operation for training. What do you see as the changes for CST 24 that we need to be prepping the people who are coming after Ryan to take on that mission?
So here's the deal, team. Rigor, rigor, rigor. So if there's a thing that everyone needs to be laser beam focused on, it's showing up physically ready to go. The biggest change that's going to come next summer is if you're not prepared to crush the ACFT and past height weight within Army standards, you go home. That's absolutely real. You just go home. There's not going to be sort of you continue to train and we test you at the end. It's going to be the entry point to start training is those two things. So pass the ACFT, but for us that's not good enough, right? We want to crush the ACFT. So be laser beam focused on that and show up ready to pass Army height weight standards. If you do those two things, you're already at like 80% of the way towards dominating everything that's going to come once you enter training. And so the rest of training is going to be just that. It's going to be points based. So whether you're doing land nav or you're doing the foot marches or you're going to be doing the warrior skills, marksmanship, there's a score associated with each of those with a minimum standard. A minimum standard gets you, if you don't meet the minimum standard, that's 0 points. And then there's a scale associated with the amount of points for those events. So you'll accrue points over time while at camp. You're going to see similarities from last year in terms of reps and sets in leadership roles, and that aspect of what we're going to do next summer is equally important. And so as you guys are preparing for camp next summer outside of fitness, probably the single biggest thing you can do is practice small unit leadership, practice your communication skills, and practice how you sort of build teams. Because that's really the challenge when we get there and we get thrown into a group of cadets from all over the place that never really work together, is they have to build a team pretty fast to give way together as they go into squad and platoon level lanes later on. And so being successful in that requires appropriate communication skills, the ability to build cohesive teams in a very rapid rate, and then allow the whole team to perform at a high level. So small unit tactics, things like that is really going to lift you up. Obviously, there's other intangibles like being able to shoot and being able to land navigate, and those are all really important. But I think if you focused on small unit tactics, leadership, right, and communication skills and physical fitness, you're going to be cooking with gas when you get there next summer.
Sure. Ryan, what did you see that amongst your peer group, as I recall, you had a really cohesive platoon, or it seemed that way from when I saw you guys. Yeah. How did you build the team, and what did your cadre do to make that successful?
I think one thing that our cadre did really well to facilitate that teamwork is just allowing us time to kind of do our own thing, if that makes any sense. Like you have a lot of time, CTO time every day where you get training done. And a lot of the time, I saw other platoons, their cadre kind of force them to facilitate certain different trainings, whereas our cadre were just like, here's your time block, you can go ahead and do what you want with that time. And I think that freedom allowed us to kind of form up our own little team, and that really helped us execute once we reached the field.
There's some risk with that, but you guys self-organized and got stuff done, so it was outcomes-based.
Yes, sir.
Well, I think you make a really good point, though, of there is a lot of time, and you could either be on your neck in the patrol base, or you could be bringing the team together and working through your SOPs and how you're going to operate and how you're going to standardize what you're doing. You'll hear the CG talk, reps and sets. He'll say that over and over again, and it's the big things and the little things. And often the little things make the big things go much, much smoother, right? You'll have something to fall back on versus going through discovery learning and becomes a little bit chaotic. And so, and that's by design, right? Some of that's by design. You were designed to create a little bit of chaos and increase the rheostat as you go through, but if you have a foundation to draw on, it makes everything else much, much smoother. So I think the takeaway from what I heard from you, Cadet Lou, is, we really want to use our time wisely while we're there and make the most of it so that we're super successful.
Absolutely. Well, gentlemen, I think we're ready to escalate. If you're ready to go,
let's do it.
This is a fruit-based sauce, super tasty, and these are on B-Dub's Naked Tenders, which are a great base for this.
Okay so far.
Good, sir. Good.
It's going to escalate soon, though, I think.
It is, sir. We're starting to creep up the hill
That's right.
a little bit, and we're going to be on the precipice soon. But, sir, I'm really, really fortunate to have had some phenomenal senior NCOs leave their fingerprints on my leadership style over the past 2 decades. What have you seen in your time in service that allowed officers and NCOs to create cohesive partnerships that drove organizations to success?
Sure. So, like you, I've been extremely blessed to have just some of the best NCOs ever, from the time I was a lieutenant to as a senior officer in the Army. I honestly can't look back on my career and say that my Ranger buddy was not a person that I would just sort of idolize and look up to. They've always been just this tremendously professional, competent, caring leader that shaped who I hope to be and hope I've become in the Army, right? And honestly, that really is that's the strength of our Army. That's what makes our Army so great. It is our competitive advantage, is our non-commissioned officer corps. But to really answer your question is the cohesiveness of it. It can be intimidating, especially for a young officer coming in and wanting to build trust and lead, because you must lead. There's this aspect of you must lead your non-commissioned officers. And here's the secret, is they really want you to lead them. They want that leadership. They want their officer to be successful, because that's sort of the foundation of what the NCO Corps is about, right? And so what I found has worked really well for me is sort of 2 things. One is clear and open communication at all times. You must be able to talk to each other. You must be able to close the door and have uncomfortable conversations with each other, with the expectation that when you open the door, everyone is on the same page, and nobody knows that whatever disagreement happened, when you walk out front, it's a unified front in front of the formation, and everybody will know. Everyone will know if it's not. Your soldiers will know, and it'll spread like wildfire if you guys are faking it. All right. So building that trust and that communication early. And the other piece is having a real early on is clearly talking about what you're good at and what they're good at, and figuring out how to make peanut butter and jelly there. What I've found with all of my NCOs is some of them were really strong in one thing and had challenges in others. I'm pretty good at some things and I have challenges in others, and we both have to sort of adapt so that our combined leadership style is what's best for the organization. If either one of you is rigid in your approach and unwilling to bend a little bit for the benefit of the organization, then it can cause some structural issues within the organization. So I just define your roles and responsibilities early, counsel each other, and I mean that it's a 2-way conversation, counsel each other routinely, and build trust and have open communication. If you do those sort of things, the rest of it all sort of works itself out. That's my thought.
Absolutely, sir. When you said that, it made me think, we say things are combined arms because they're complementary and reinforcing. So if you do that assessment and you're honest, you'll figure out where the weak spots are and cover each other. Unbeatable team.
Yep. Do we have time for a real quick story?
Yes, sure.
All right. So, as a battalion commander, I had a crazy sergeant major. He was awesome, right? He had grown up in Delta Force, Ranger Reconnaissance Company. He was every soldier's idol. He looked like a Call of Duty character. He's 6'4", big dude, tats down to his wrists. He's what every private wanted to be when he grew up. He was physically dominating, just an amazingly tactically competent non-commissioned officer. He had never been a platoon sergeant, much less a first sergeant or a command sergeant major. Because of the units he was in, he kind of bypassed those things. He'd been a team leader, right? But he'd never been those things. And so when we first met, we found out we were being teamed up together before we ever got to Fort Bragg. And we sat down and talked, and he was so open and honest, it blew me away. He's like, hey, look, sir, I know how to fight. I know how to employ combined arms. He's like, but I don't know anything about the administrative operation of this organization. Like, I've never run a battalion, much less a company. And so I've got a huge learning curve. I need you to help me out. That was like the best thing that ever happened in our relationship, because it immediately set a foundation of trust between the two of us, because he was very open about where he knew he had weaknesses. And we built on that. And he invested in those weaknesses, but I had his back on them too. And so that was a jumping off point for us. That was tremendous. And I'll always remember that as an example of like what I was describing. So I don't know.
Absolutely, sure.
Sir, Ranger Challenge is fast approaching at the end of October. Would you mind explaining how you've seen that plan develop over the past few months, and your goal for the brigade team looking out towards Sandhurst?
I would. Winning matters. Say it again. Winning matters. Here's the deal, guys. Competition breeds excellence, right? It might be like one of the most important things that makes our Army great, that makes small teams great, is this internal and external competitions we are constantly putting ourselves into. Spartan Ranger Challenge is ours. It's our event. It's our event that we own, and it's our event that we're going to use as our jumping off point by which we dominate Sandhurst. And we win. That's absolutely real. So what we've done for this Ranger Challenge, you guys have the answer to the test. Like, if you're on the Ranger Challenge team, we have published the standards. We've told you exactly what's coming. There's no surprises, because we wanted you to have the optimal conditions by which you selected your team and prepared yourselves for peak performance this October, which will then be the jumping off point by which what I feel I owe you guys is to resource you for success when we go to West Point and take that trophy. That's Sandhurst. And I kind of mentioned the other day, one of the other things that we're working to kind of create incentives and create a consistent culture is more than just one Spartan Ranger Challenge like event. So we're working some things now. We're looking like a Ranger Challenge circuit where we compete more frequently, and we keep this going year round. And then we're working a pilot right now with the folks over in Wales, like the UK Wales, to go to have our winning team this year go to do the Cambrian Patrol in Wales next year as sort of a reward for top performance. So we're trying to incentivize it, but really it's about getting you guys out there competing and winning. And at your level, we really want to drive you to seek opportunities to compete and win with your teams, right? Find ways to get out there and get after it. Bring your dudes to a Spartan race. Bring your folks to run a 5K or a 10K and go compete and just get after it and build that spirit of competition. It's what makes the Army awesome. So,
absolutely, sure. All right, time to step up again. This is where it's going to start to get a little real. So this might take you back to bourbon country. This is a whiskey smoked sauce, very smoky, very tasty.
you said it's going to get a little real.
All right, sir, we're going to play a game called Explain That Graham,
Oh, God.
where we show you some pictures that have been crowdsourced. So I got a couple sources, as well as what we were able to find. It should take you back to what we think are cool moments in your past, and we'd just like you to share what's on your mind when you see
This
these.
could go a lot of different ways.
So, sir, first up, what do you remember about this day?
So here's what I remember about that day, other than it being a great day. So graduation, right? What I remember about that day is I had torn my ACL 2 weeks before that. And I had gotten a whole bunch of pain shots and took a bunch of painkillers so that I could walk across the stage and not crutch across the stage. So for me, that day was about grit and sucking it up for the 2 hours I had to stand in formation outside of Mikey Stadium, and then the walk in, sitting there for an hour while the speeches happened, and we waited for the class, and then walking my way up the stage and walking off and trying not to fall over in front of my family and friends that were watching it. So it was high pressure. It was a stressful day, but an awesome day because it was the day you start your Army career. So pretty awesome.
Yes, sir.
I don't know where you got that.
We got some social media ninjas, sir. Here's another blast from the past. What does this take you back to?
That right there, that is Afghanistan. So that should be
2011.
Yeah, it's 2011. So that one should be in Wardak Province in 2011, where I was a task force commander with the 173rd. So I was in 1st to 503rd, and you see there a couple of my platoon leaders and my fire support officer and my XO. And, we were, I think that was right before we were pushing out to occupy a couple of our COPs in sector, and that was the start of a pretty intense deployment out in Jalrez district that we owned for the totality of that deployment. And it was really cool for me from like a leadership perspective, because it was the first time that as a captain, I had other captains sort of placed under me, because I had a task force of other companies and batteries that were working for me. And so having to really exercise peer leadership in a combat role, that was really, really challenging, and something I spent a lot of time trying to think about my approach so that we didn't sort of divide the team early on in what was going to be a really, really tough deployment. So that's what that one was.
So Ryan, just to tell you how small the Army is, I went to the career course with two of those guys standing next to him, and then the third, Matt Bailey, is the one who sourced the picture, which you probably knew, sir.
Yeah, that's right.
So, sir,
Which two did you go to school with?
I went with Gerard.
Okay.
And, I'm forgetting his name.
Nick?
Yeah, yes, sir.
Or Reamer?
On the far right. Reamer.
Reamer Argo. That's right.
Yeah, Reamer
Yeah,
Argo.
yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, we were at all the career course at the same time with Matt and Ross Daly, if you remember that name.
No more.
So, sir, what was happening this day? Looks like a pretty good day in H- country.
So that was after battalion command, and that was the day I got to promote a bunch of my lieutenants. So I can't remember if that was. I think that one was a second lieutenant to first lieutenant promotion. Should have been. Yeah. Bunch of second lieutenants getting promoted to first lieutenant right there, and that's always an awesome day, right? Because it may often feel like going from second lieutenant to first lieutenant is just sort of a thing that sort of happens, but it's a big deal because a subtle shift happens when you make that promotion in the organization. People treat you a little bit different, and they have different expectations of you, right? Basically, it's like the training wheels are off, and we really need you to like step up your game. Like just wearing that rank, you walk in with a little bit more wasta than you did wearing your butter bar, and so it's really important. So we always tried to make a big deal about bringing our NCOs in and our officers in every time we promoted our lieutenants from second lieutenant to first lieutenant. So that's what that one was.
Sure. So it looks like a hot day out on the back 40. What's going on here?
So that is Sergeant Blankenship, right? I guess it would have been Specialist Blankenship in that picture, and that is the last 800 meters of the 12-mile foot march at EIB. I want to say that would have been 2020, I think. Sounds about right. 2020, we would have done it, and I stood next to. I walked the last like 3 miles in with Blankenship, just 'cause he was on that cusp of like not wanting to keep going, but was too damn proud to let the battalion commander like finish in front of him, and so he just stayed on my hip the whole way, and we walked it in. And then the best part about this, which you don't see, is afterwards you have to do a functions check with your weapon, right? And he was kind of delirious coming out of that. And so a whole bunch of dudes from the battalion like blocked his visibility from the guys that were doing that check to give him like 5 minutes to like catch his breath and like get himself situated so that he could then walk over and have his stuff together when he had to do his functions check at the end. And he got his EIB. I pinned it on him the next day, and to this day that was a really fun moment. He got a lot of grief for that picture. I'm not gonna lie to you, mostly because his helmet was
sideways.
so goofy looking. It was pretty funny, but awesome guy, really tremendous sergeant, and super proud of him.
Sure. So this is a little more recent. Can you explain what was going on here and why this audience might care?
Yeah, so that right there is the Centers of Influence reception up in Louisville, Kentucky. And so what we do is there are like key stakeholders everywhere. Like you have them here at Virginia Tech. We have them in Cadet Command. 1st Brigade has them. There are people that have influence, resources, support to our programs or people that we want to help us with certain things. And typically they're folks that really, really care about developing people and leaders in the Corps and Army ROTC. And so what we do is we bring them to key events and spend some time with them and show them the great things that come out of Army ROTC. In this case, we brought them up for cadet summer training. So while you guys were there this summer, we brought them up that summer, and we took them around and showed them all the training you guys were doing. And then some of them got to go do a tandem jump with the Golden Knights and all these other kind of cool things, so that when they leave that little event, they walk away with just a over-the-top positive view of our Army and our cadets and U.S. Army Cadet Command, and they come back they bring that back to their institution. So in that case, the lady in the dress is Dr. Sally Selden, and she, to my left, she's Dr. Sally Selden. She's the provost at the Citadel, and she left that, went back to the Citadel, and is just really, really over the top positive about all things Army OTC from that event. So it's all about relationships. Everything in the Army, everything in life is about building relationships, and that's an example of that.
Yes, sir. Shout out to Dr. Laura Belmonte, the Dean of the College of Liberal Arts and Human Sciences here at Virginia Tech.
That's right.
She endorses our curriculum, and she took the challenge this summer. It was really awesome to see her out there. All right, sir, last one. This looks like a pretty cool event. I was a little jealous of this. What was going on here?
Hey, so we talked about competing, right? So that's our NCO of the Year competition. And Sergeant Major Beard took 9 of our best NCOs and put them through the ringer down in down around Talladega, and put them through some really, really hard, challenging events. A lot of them like the same things that you guys would have done that you'll do at summer training, but put them in a real short amount of time, under stress, under pressure to perform. There were physical assessments, there were mental assessments, and the coolest part about it was at the end, we awarded the winner down there on the finish line at Talladega Speedway, and it was just really, really cool and fitting way to, one, highlight just how great our non-commissioned officer corps was, because the points spread between our top 3 was 3 points. Like it was literally like one more point on marksmanship, or like a pound heavier on your deadlift would have been the difference maker between like our top 3, which is just, again, reinforces how great our NCOs are, and that any one of them is going to go dominate anywhere we send them in our Army. And so it's just really, really cool to be able to be part of that and highlight just how awesome our NCO Corps is, and that's what that was all about.
Sure. Sergeant Bejas represented us. Great job, Sergeant Bejas. All right, gents, it's time to crank it up a little bit.
All right. Which one's this?
This is another fruit-based saucer. It's that Dark Cherry Carolina Reaper. It
Okay.
has the Reaper in it. We'll see what happens.
Whew. He's eyeballing me over here. He's waiting to see what happens. I like it.
So this is where it makes itself known. Now, sir, we know that fitness and team building are some of your passions.
Yep.
We've seen a lot of your workouts on Instagram. I got to experience one yesterday. They reminded me of Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson and some of his infamous workouts in his home gyms. He's also really famous for his cheat meals.
Yeah.
Epic cheat meals that push the boundaries of what's reasonable, kind of like some of these sauces. What's your favorite cheat meal?
Easy day. This is easy. I love real New York style pizza, sausage and onion, some garlic powder on it, and a side of garlic knots. I will smash that entire thing by myself.
Do you do the New York fold, sir?
There's no other way to eat
Okay.
it. You must fold the pizza. Otherwise, you just hate freedom, and we can't have that.
So for those of you who are not familiar with the New York fold, if you go to one of the Benny's around here, like Benny Marzano's, which is here, take the giant piece of pizza, you fold it in half, essentially keeps all the stuff inside, helps you eat it.
Yeah, that's most Fridays in my house is a couple of those pies and some garlic knots. Cheat meal for days.
And is that what the family's gravitating towards, sir? Or are they?
So my wife is a native New Yorker, and there's only one kind of pizza to eat, and it's New York style pizza. She's made that very clear as a foundational aspect of our marriage, and so that's real. And so yes, the whole family is invested and does it right. They have no other options to do it, And they're also really, really picky when it comes to what good pizza is, and kind of snobbish with it. It's pretty intense.
For sure.
So yeah.
I think it's interesting when you live in the Northeast long enough, people get very tribal about their pizza, but it's convenient that you can go probably 15 minutes in any direction and get a good slice.
Facts. Yep. That's it.
Right.
Cheers.
Sir, this next game is going to be called This or That.
Okay.
I'm going to throw out 2 options,
Okay.
and you're going to tell me which you prefer and why.
Okay.
So, you ready to start?
Let's do it.
Coffee or tea?
Coffee.
Fall or spring?
Fall.
Lobster or steak?
Steak.
Ranch on your pizza or no ranch on your pizza?
Do you not like freedom? No ranch.
I enjoy ranch on my pizza.
Who hurt you?
Pancakes or waffle?
Pancakes.
Okay. Mountains or beach?
Mountains.
Air assault or airborne?
Why would you even ask me that question? What do you think the answer is?
Airborne.
Absolutely, 100%. I've been in the 101st. I love them. Great people, but airborne all the way.
Airborne or Pathfinder?
Airborne all the way.
Okay.
Pathfinder is just an enabling function of being a great paratrooper. Right?
Cool. All right. We're towards the end of the journey. Any questions before we escalate, Ryan?
No.
Sir, anything you want to talk about before we climb the mountain?
Let's climb the mountain.
Okay, it is customary around here to put a little something extra on the last wing. This is unique garlic. It's not to be underestimated, but one of the most flavorful sauces, I think, in my collection. Ryan, you may do your own dab, and please hand it to the boss. So you can go as crazy or not. It's up to you.
Here you go, sir.
I'm all about you've established a bar and I must be equal.
Absolutely.
Whatever comes out, you got to eat too. So
There it is. All right, I'll safe the weapon system here. Never want to leave that one open. Okay, gentlemen, here we
Bottoms
are.
up.
Cheers.
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 Doing all right, Ryan?
I'm doing all right, sir.
You look good. You're not even sweating.
No, I'm not. It's a good sauce.
I'll be honest with you. I'm a little disappointed in Dan right now. That's Major Harrison to everybody on the line. He talked a big game about these hot sauces, and I'm feeling pretty okay. I'm feeling like I'm not going to touch that milk.
We couldn't burn the boss, sir.
I figured that's what was going on. I appreciate that.
Well, sir, as the last dab attempts
Yep.
to burn us from the inside out, do you have any book recommendations for cadets or cadre to help better understand the global operational environment that we'll be entering, or any advice to help them become better leaders?
100%. So if I was to make a recommendation on a book, and I say this because we're going to read this book as a brigade. If you haven't read the book Legacy by James Kerr, you must all go buy it and read it. It's maybe one of the best, easiest reads on how to create cohesive teams that you'll ever read. It just all makes sense, right? And he's got about 15 really good kind of key points in it. The one everybody gets to first is, sweep the sheds, this idea that you're never too important or too high ranking to do the little things, right? So don't ever get away from that. But probably the 2 points that are in that book that I love the most is leaders make leaders. That's I think it's like point number 11 or something that he comes up with. But my favorite one is this idea of being a good ancestor, right? And what that really comes with is this point of plant trees that you're going to never see, right? And so there's this idea of third generation leadership, and you all do it. Everyone in this room does it, right? When you're developing the people around you, right? The work you do, it's not about the person you're investing in right now. What you're doing is you're building the framework that person is going to train the people after them. It's this idea of third generation leadership, right? So plant trees that you're never going to see, and you'll find that it creates a lasting culture which is what it's all about, is a culture. And in our case, it's a culture of accountability. And so, legacy, James Kerr. It's about the All Blacks, the New Zealand rugby team, and how they were just this tremendously successful championship team for years and years and years. Maybe the most successful sports team in history. And it talks about the things that made them great. And so we as a brigade are going to read it, and we're going to talk about it. It's going to be kind of the thing when I talked about being a center of excellence for building cohesion in teams. That's going to be an anchor point by which we talk about that at every echelon. So there you go.
Sure. That's right. So
I'm looking at the tears holding back.
That was real deep, sir.
It was deep. I know. We're building. Remember, I'm a philosopher as we started this off.
Sure.
Now I'm not gonna lie to you though. Like I'm starting to get a little sweat on the brow. So are you. You are definitely getting some sweat on the brow. I'm feeling like a little tear in my left eye, but I'm holding off. Like because I did say out loud, I'm not going to drink the milk. Once you commit to it,
that's right, sir.
You're committed, and so you're all in.
Just like the plank, you just
That's right.
try to exist. That's right. Actually, the first conversation I have with our upperclassmen is about climate and culture.
Yep.
You change climate when you walk in the room, culture is what you leave. That book, I think, pairs really well with Nate Zinzer's The Confident Mind. I don't know if you're familiar. I feel like Confident Mind arms you with how can I be the best version of myself and the best contributor to the team, and then Legacy is all about how do we collectively create that lasting culture.
That's right. That's right. It's a great book, and like I said, it's easy to read.
Yeah.
It's not giant, and everything that just sort of like makes sense. And I appreciate that everything in it is about a sports team, and so you're not kind of like it's not shoving Army necessarily down your throat, but the ideas translate to everything. It translates to how you lead in your families, right? How to be a good parent, how to be a good teammate, how to be a good cadet. I mean, it all makes sense. So I love it.
Absolutely. All right, sir, to take us across the finish line, I'd like to circle back then to that quote at the beginning about milestones and moments. There are a lot of songs that immediately trigger memories for me of my time in uniform. Are there any songs or moments that bubble up for you that take you back immediately?
Sure. So I'm a big Metallica fan.
Yes.
All right.
I understand, man.
And Ride the Lightning is my favorite album. All right. Came out in 1984, so before probably most everybody in here was born, except for Sergeant Major. And so Ride the Lightning is a great album. It's got a ton of great songs on it, but there's one song in particular that I have loved for years, and ever since I played football in high school on, it's always been like this song that's sort of been a preparatory song before every big thing, right? And that song is For Whom the Bell Tolls, right? And if you're not familiar with For Whom the Bell Tolls, right, originally a book by Ernest Hemingway, written in 1940, maybe his best work, if you're into the classics, right? But it talks about the Spanish Civil War and an American volunteer that had to take out a bridgehead, right, and like how that whole thing unfurled. Well, the lyrics in For Whom the Bell Toll kind of mirror that book. And what I always, other than kind of the cool association with the military from the song, I remember going through Bolic, whenever we'd go, get ready to do an operation, or we're in bay planning or whatever, somebody'd have the radio on, that would be just playing in the background. I remember before going on air assaults, one of my soldiers, as a lieutenant, would have that thing blaring. Before we got on, the helicopter going into Iraq. I remember before we'd go out on missions in Afghanistan, like that song is timeless, and it's transcended my whole career, and I get as fired up now over it when it starts playing as I did as a kid in high school or as a lieutenant getting ready to go on his first operation. So it's been the song that I just hear all the time at key moments in my Army career, and it's pretty great.
Absolutely, sir. But the Black Album for me, so many
also
memories
great,
from
also
the Black
great.
Album.
I love the Black Album, but Ride the Lightning,
Yes, sir.
that's where it's at.
Ryan, any music that resonates with you for your start of your career that you want to carry forward?
No Taylor Swift or Katy Perry, otherwise Sergeant Major Young is not going to like it.
Well, a song that's kind of nostalgic for me is Pursuit of Happiness by Kid Cudi. It's like one of my favorite songs in high school. In high school, it's like my jam. Like when I first got my driver's license, it was the first song I threw on and took off and was like, yeah, I'm all grown now. So I have this kind of association with just like pursuing happiness and youthfulness and kind of doing your own thing. And as I came into the Corps and into ROTC and through the last 3 years of this journey I've had, I still kind of listen to that song and have like a new resonation with like growth into now like manhood and becoming a junior officer in the United States military. So I think that's a song that I'd like to carry on. It kind of reminds me of youthfulness and kind of being able to do whatever I want. But then now as I listen to it, it's just like a transition into adulthood, into the maturity and the growth that I've had over the past 3 years of being here at Virginia Tech.
It's pretty awesome, right? Kind
Awesome.
Positive outlook on life. Invest in your people the same way. It's pretty great, right?
Sure. Well, sir, we made it to the top of the Capsaicin Mountain.
did.
Congratulations. You've completed actions on for the Torch ones. This camera and this camera, please tell the people what you have going on in your life.
So this is this trip to VTech is leg one of a 2-school journey. So we were down here doing the senior military conference. More importantly, hanging out with our Hokies and the number one ROTC program in the country. It's pretty awesome. We're going to transition today. Hopefully I make it in all one piece down to Lexington and go check out our brothers and sisters down at VMI, and we'll spend a couple days doing some good PT, talking about leadership, talking about building cohesive teams before we head back up to Fort Knox, where we'll kind of reset and really start focusing the brigade on the things that I kind of described in here in terms of how do we create value for our Army and for Cadet Command based on the glutton of resources that we have at our fingertips and really just the tremendous cores that I get to spend time with, every couple of months. And so for me it's a really cool time as I learn the organization and as we prepare to win some competitions pretty soon, and we prepare to make you guys wildly successful at summer training. And that's where we're at. That's where we're going. So.
Sir, thanks for joining us. Ryan, congratulations on being the highest rated guest in Torch One's history. This is your 3rd episode. Well done. New River Battalion, you stay frosty. River Forge.